another live stream. I saw that many of you enjoyed previous two that we did on Boxing Day and on 2nd of January. So we're going to have another one, which I hope that you all very much enjoy. Let me get my other device ready. It's much easier to actually do a live stream using two devices, as I learned from Mr. Richardson and also from Mr. Ian Seabrook. Carl Ravioli says, good evening, sir, good evening to you. Some person on YouTube says hello. Hello. Just get this on here so I can actually keep up with the questions properly. Paulie Galtier says hello, as does Mr. G. Mr. G, we haven't seen you for some time, sir. Good evening to you. Mr. Adam Toms says good evening, sir. Good evening to you and also other viewers of the channel. Let me just put this on mute so when it goes, we don't have any kind of interruptions that we don't need. There we go. Agent Barry, also known as Bernie of CI5, says, good evening from SETI Alpha 5. Good evening to you as well, sir. Tritemonger says, good evening one and all. If you're wondering what these little pictures of the Rover 416 are, they're actually badges for the channel members. There's actually a system which shows you how long that someone has been a channel member. We haven't got onto the people who have been there onto the sort of next stage, which would be a different photograph. Oh, Simone from Hooked on Classics says, good evening, Mr. Lloyd. Good evening to you, Simone. Justin from the French Bread channel says, good evening. A good evening to you, sir. Richard Howlett says, good evening all as well. Mr. G says, lots of secret mission work to do. Yes, you must have acquired many secret mission documents in your new role as an undercover operative. That must be what has happened to you, sir. John Hodgson says, good evening. It says, well, good evening to you as well, sir. I'm just going to find the registration number of that Volvo 480 that a lot of you would have seen earlier on, because it actually does have some relevance. So I just need to make sure we've got that, and I will just put that into. Yeah, there we go. That's what I wanted. L324DNX, and we'll just have a look at that because I'm going to need to look the registration up to be able to tell you why on earth we posted that on the community page this afternoon. Let's just make sure I've got this ready. There we go. Right, the information is now in front of me, which is better. Let's just open the chat up again. No, it's still the same. It's still the same people saying sort of hello. So the reason that Volvo 480 was on there is because that car is at a house that locally is quite famous around here. I won't tell you exactly where it is. But Matthew Jones says, evening all. Good evening to you as well, sir. So that 480 was at a house that locally is quite famous around here. It was actually on the way to a job my lady wife used to have. Now, I'm not going to tell you where that was exactly. Just say she used to walk to work. That's all I'm going to say. But there's quite a few interesting cars that the owners of that house have had over the time. And one of them is that 480. But if we take a look at the MOT history, something I'm very familiar with in sourcing cars for clients, there we can see that we have a number of failures on here. The December 2020 failure list, the major defects, and bearing in mind this car showing 32,862 miles, are quite considerable. Exhaust hydrocarbon content after second fast idling exceeds default limits. I know we might have MOT testers on here. Mr. Coleman used to be one himself. I don't know if he's around. He might not be. Just make sure this chat box is the right size so I can keep reading this. Exhaust carbon monoxide content after second fast idle exceeds default limits. Remember, these are all major defects. These are all failures. Exhaust lambda reading after second fast idle outside specified limits. Obviously, this I think is a 93 car, so it's it has to have a cat on it, so that'll be to do with the lambda sensors. Next one, exhaust emits dense blue smoke at idle. Front windscreen wiper does not clear the windscreen effectively. Near side rear suspension component mounting prescribed area excessively corroded, significantly reducing structural strength. Wheel arch. Offside rear suspension component mounting prescribed area excessively corroded, significantly reducing structural strength. Near side front outer drive shaft joint constant velocity boot split or insecure no longer prevents being aggressive dirt. I'm still going. These are just major failures. Near front anti-roll bar, ball joint dust cover no longer prevents the ingress of dirt drop link. Brake pipe corroded excessively front to rear. Exhaust has a major leak of gases center to rear. Rear brake pipe excessively corroded, all of the rear. Near side anti-roll bar linkage joint excessively worn, drop link. Offside rear anti-roll bar linkage ball joint, more definitely drop link. Now, drop links actually aren't that much of a problem. If you ever have anything to do with things like a Mark II Focus or a Mark 7 Fiesta, you'll know that they sort of go through those quite a lot. We're almost finished with these major failures. Near side front brake pipe excessively corroded. Offside front brake pipe excessively corroded. Near side track rod ball joint excessive play. Main beam telltale not working. These are the advisories. All 4 brake hoses heavily perished. Various oil leaks. Rear coil springs heavily corroded. Rear suspension arms bushes are in very poor condition. Rear brake hose unions are very rusty. Front suspension components are very rusty. Front wishbones are perished. Front outer offside outer CV is perished. And would you believe it? They had another go at actually having an MOT, which was in April 2021. Okay, it's not as bad as last time, but it's still not great. Do not drive until repaired. Dangerous defects. Offside brake pipe connection leaking on hydraulic braking system. Near side brake pipe connection leaking on hydraulic braking system. Repair immediately. Major defects. Rear lamp, fog lamp telltale not working. That's not too bad. Front windscreen wiper does not clear windscreen effectively. Central exhaust system insecure. These are all things that actually were some of which weren't even present on the last failure sheet. John Edwards says, "Are you sure you're reading about the Volvo rotten Ford KA?" I assure you, I'm reading the Volvo. So we got minor defects here, repair as soon as possible. Battery insecure, but not like a default from carrier. Offside front position lamp light intensity obviously reduced. Advisories: near side rear brake disc worn, pitted, secured, or not seriously weakened. Offside rear brake disc worn, pitted, or scored, not secure, seriously weakened. Near side rear coil spring corroded. Offside rear coil spring corroded. Offside rear suspension arm pin or bush worn but not resulting excessive movement. Near side rear suspension pin or bush worn not resulting in excessive movement. And would you know it? April 2021. Pass. There we go. Repair as soon as possible. Battery insecure, not default from carrier. Offside front position lamp light intensity reduced. And then near side rear brake disc worn, pitted, or scored, but not seriously. Offside rear brake disc worn, pitted, or secured, but not seriously weakened. Near side rear coil spring corroded. Offside rear coil spring corroded. Offside rear suspension arm pin or bush will not result in aggressive movement. Near side rear suspension arm pin or bush not resulting in aggressive movement. That car is no longer actually at that address. But if I had a failure sheet in December 2020 that was like that, I don't think I'd be trying to put the car back on the road. Absolutely and utterly crazy. So yes, I'm going to need my my tipple for the evening. So let's get back to some of these comments. Mr. Harry Cox says hello. Good evening to you, sir. We have some of this. We have some apple cider, which I'm looking forward to very much. Tim Holton. Oh, hello, Tim. Says hello, sir. Simone says sounds terrible. Yes, Simone put on classics. Very terrible. She says it needs TLC and a cuddle. It needs a bit more than TLC and a cuddle. It needs, I think, some sort of TLC from Mr. Coleman's welder and a lot of replacement parts. Rover Joe says, "How are you, sir? I'm very well, sir." Mr. G Arsenal Tipple. Then we covered that already. Car Ravioli, the understatement of the evening. It sounds like it had quite a life. I think so. Adam Toms says the Volvo 480 takes back to my childhood. The local children's entertainer in my hometown had one. He used to do magic tricks. Well, that car needs quite a few magic tricks on its doing, I think, amongst other things. Black and F-Reg. Funny enough, our neighbours, when I was growing up, had a black F-Reg 480 Turbo. I think that's gone off the road, unfortunately, now. Scottish Guy Enthusiasm Trains TV, Mr. Waters. Sounds like my old micro I bought a few years ago for £175. We all love those cheap cars. I think the cheapest car I bought was a Proton for £200. Simone says hello to me again. Yes, good evening once again. Other than that, it always started first times with Paulie Galtieri. So I think we've got someone who is a little bit sort of I don't know what's going on with Pancakes 1337. I think we might have to remove that a little bit. Cara Violi makes a very observant comment. Would it be easier to single out the parts haven't gone wrong? John Edwards says, "Are you sure you're not really about the Volvo or my rotten Ford car?" Yes, rotten old Ford car Mark 1s. Yes, indeed. Trabbley says, "Good evening to everybody." Good evening, sir. Mrs. Saxby says, "Good evening." Good evening, Mrs. Saxby. Jimmy Thomas says, "Sounds like MOT failure sheet for Alfa 145. Yes, Alfa 145s, not the most resistant to corrosion cars ever. Hooked on Classics says, hello to Trabelli. And Trabelli says, good evening to Simone. Then we've got, Agent Barry, Bodie of CI5. How much did they bribe a test to pass it? Well, they didn't bribe them, obviously, because there's quite a lot of things on the advisory sheet. And Simone Hood of Classics recently had a Rover 75 for an MOT. I think that car's on her channel, isn't it, Simone? And she said, "I thought my 75 was going to fail." Well, not as spectacularly as that. Simon Beatty says, "Good evening." Mr. Rover Joe says, "How am I doing?" "I'm doing fine, sir. Thank you for joining us on the live stream." There is a super chat button if one of you wants to use that very kindly. A couple of people did last time. It's always an entertaining thing. And if you aren't already pressed the like button, I'd very much appreciate it. John Edwards says something which would be very relevant. "I must say, little Aldi apple cider is a touch better than Tesco equivalent, but still reasonable for £1.99 for a 4-pack, sir." It is indeed, but we happen to be in Tesco this week. Rushy01 says, "How much would it cost to fix all these issues?" Ask Mr. Coleman, rubbish mechanic. He would be able to answer that sort of question. He's not a very big fan of the Dutch Volvos, unfortunately. I don't mind him myself, but he is yes, he's not very fond of them. Tripemonger says, another channel member. Good evening to you, sir. I recall my mother being a fan of the famous P1800. Yes, of the Saint. We do like the Volvo P1800 on this channel, and all of them Roger Moore had on the Saint. We do like those very much, and of course the 480. Davey from Scottish Car Enthusiast and Trains TV says, "Does John Edwards yet like the Aldi Little cider?" Yes, indeed. Trabberley says, "I didn't know they made the 480 until 93. They actually made the 480 until 1995. It was 86 to 95. Quite a long production life. I think the last one was called the 480 Celebration. Have to actually sort of look that up because I can't remember exactly. I think they're called the Celebration. Business and Celebration Day. Nice looking car. Sean Cook says, "Bonsoir, monsieur." "Bonsoir, monsieur," aussi. John Edwards says, "The Volvo sounds like it belongs on Mr. Richardson's fleet. Everything rusted or falling up, but never give up on it." Mr. Richardson is a man of great perseverance, much more perseverance than I have. Sean Cook says he's on the Abbott Ale tonight. Tesco cider are a good choice. It's just what we happen to have in the fridge, I think, unfortunately. Not too much choice today. Paulie Galtieri says, my cheapest car was a 1986 Audi Coupe 2.2 GT for a tenner in 1999. I think an Audi Coupe 2.2 GT would be a little bit more than that these days. Jimmy Thomas says, feel free to put my registration number to compare the sheets. Registration number is P21YPJ. Is that something that you'd like to if you'd like to see, then you actually put the company in comments below. I just need to get through a few more comments, and then we'll have a look at Jimmy's Alpha. Mr. Waters from Scottish Car Enthusiasts and Trains TV says, my tipple tonight is a couple of glasses of German wine. Is that Liebfrauen milk, Mr. Waters? Simon Beasley says, have you been to the Bolton Underwater Motor Museum? I have. And not only have I been there, it's actually on the channel. It was visited in, I think, August 2020. It's on one of the Shambolic Shuffles. I think I've never filmed a Shambolic Shuffle in such heat. It was 32 degrees that day, and it's inside. So there we go. Agent Barry, Barry of CI5 says, my cheapest car was my first, a 1.1 Fiesta for £200. They cost about £1,200 to insure, but I was 19. Ever is the way, isn't it? Always the way. Russell Cooper asks, have you ever driven a 1300 Capri? No, I haven't actually. I've driven a 2.8 injection. That's on Two Jacket Reviews, actually. It was the 2,000 subscriber special. Never driven one a 1.3. I'd like to try a smaller engine Capri. I mean, they do have one of those Great British Car Jets, a 1.6 laser. Matthew Jones says, I have a no-budget review you might like in Bournemouth. A 1.4 petrol Hyundai Getz GSI 2006. Oh, when can I go and film that, sir? That sounds really exciting. Send me an email at my email address. It's on kind of virtually every no-budget reviews episode from about late 2020 onwards, or sensible second-hand reviews or classics. Send me an email and I'm sure we can sort that out. Simone Hooked on Classics says the Rover 75 is the cheapest car I've ever bought, £250. That's not expensive for a 75. Absolutely, it's very cheap for one of those. Sean Cook says to Paulie Galtieri, I thought a 1987 Fiat Panda 750L was good value, sir. It probably was. I don't think you can buy a Panda with an MOT Mark 1 anyway for that kind of money anymore. Carl Ravioli says, I never knew that Sir Roger Moore had one of the earliest Rover 3500s on a PRR plate in Harvest Gold. It surely had a brown interior too. Interesting to say the least. If you want to see an early Rover SD1, then there's a car that was used in the New Avengers and very early episodes of Professionals. I think it's MOC 229P, or in Professionals, it's MOO 229R. They'd used a bit of black tape to change the registration number. That was registered in March or April 76, and it was first used in the first episode of New Avengers. It's called The Eagle's Nest. That's a very early SD1 product placed by British Leyland. Travelly says the Accord Aerodeck was better. Which Aerodeck are you referring to, sir? Are you referring to the 3-door or the 5-door? Finley Plimpton says, hello, how about a 2CV? Never driven a 2CV myself. I've never done that. I've driven all kinds of other strange stuff. The car that I've actually got for the 5,000 subscriber special, we filmed that in December, and that's a very unusual car. But no, never driven a 2CV. I know various people have, not me though. Jimmy Thomas says almost 5,000 subscribers. You see, when we get to 5,000 subscribers, then we can release a 5,000 subscriber special. It's a True Jacket Review episode, and it's one of the most interesting cars I've ever driven in my life. I hope we get there soon, and then you can all watch it. Unless you become a channel member, then you can probably watch it earlier as well. And Mr. Waters says, remember and hit the like button. That's very, very good of you. Thank you, sir. Paulie Gattieri, I think he's referring to that car I bought for £10, the Audi. It says to Sean Cook, it wasn't meant. The engine pulled like a train. I paid £180 for a deregistration for a 240 GLE. Oh, I do like a Volvo 240 GLE, especially with a leather interior, beige one, of course. Very nice. That Volvo 240 and no budget reviews have been bought for not much more money than that. I think it was £350. It was paid for that 240, but I drove no budget reviews. Not my road anymore, of course. Philly Plimpton says hello to Mr. Waters. Mr. Waters on Scottish Card Enthusiasm Trains TV says hello to Finley Plimpton. Says hello. Trabally says, oh yes, the Accord Aero deck was between 86 and 89. Mr. Ian Seabrook has driven one of those, I believe. I'd like to drive an Accord Aero deck. I don't know if I can find one, but bearing in mind all the weird Nissans I've driven quite recently, I mean, perhaps there might be someone who has loads of weird Hondas. That'd be fun. Rushio wants to reconsider learning to ride a motorbike. I haven't even ridden a push bike for years because I almost killed myself on one in 1994 when I was 11. So motorbike, I think, would be a bit too dangerous for me. Buddy CI5 says, I rode a Rover 45 2-litre be a V6 for £300 in early 2010. Ford gave me trading of £1,000 to get my Focus later that year. Yeah, 45 V6s are very rare. They haven't gone up a massive amount in value since then. I mean, a really good one's about £2,000, but a lot of them have been scrapped. They're quite rare cars now. Finley Pitton says, please drive a coach for the channel. I don't know if I can do that. I have to be private land. And I do know someone with a coach license, which is Mr. Coleman. Mr. Coleman has a lot of licenses and lots of skills. I have fewer skills and fewer licenses. Tripe Munger says, my second car was the cheapest to purchase, £175 Lada Riva 1.2 saloon in cream. I bet that was pretty slow, sir, and heavy. Sadly, terminal chassis leg corrosion killed it off 1 year later. Yeah, there we go. Oh, that's very kind of you, Travelly. He's given me a super chat donation. As you can see, it takes over the comment section for quite a while. That's very kind of you, sir. You're very, very kind indeed to do that for me. I do appreciate it very much. That will go straight towards my costs for my filming trip next week. Matthew Jones says, how's the Row 45 V6 going? Well, funnily enough, you should mention that we have a ownership report of the 45 V6 on the channel that was uploaded on New Year's Eve. So if you have a look at that, then you can see lots of things mentioned in that. It's quite a long one, actually. Peter Hadley says the third generation Accord Aero deck is up there with a Mark III Prelude as a peak design for Honda. It's a fair statement. I think it's pretty good. Tripe Mugger says, in hindsight, £175 for a year's appreciation is pretty good. Yeah, you can get some amazing bargains on no budget reviews cars, can't you? Sean Cook says, have you any views on little vans that suit like a Bilingo partner or can? They're good value and very popular abroad. Well, they're quite popular over here. Things like disabled conversions and stuff like that. I've never actually driven one of those myself. I don't really know. I don't have much of an opinion on them. Although some of the engineering in them, I'm not sure is the most kind of wonderful. But there we go. There's not actually that many alternatives to those sort of little French trio. Simone from Hooked on Classics says, there's a show in Honiton in Exeter the 16th of January. I might take TC. Oh, that sounds like a good thing to do. Yeah, that sounds really good. I know what Honiton is actually. I've been there many years ago. Trabelli, no problem, sir. You're once again a very kind donation. Just about to run out, but yes, very kind nevertheless. Paulie Galtieri says, I cannot find another 240 GLE estate anywhere now. Ones out there are all hubnut spec. Yes, Ian Seabrook likes his basic cars. I like luxury. Mr. Energy says, considering you have 4,000 subscribers, why are there only 29 people watching? I've no idea, sir. There's 32 people watching now. Rover Joe says, what do you think of the rusty cells on the Civic? Rusty cells on Rover Joe's Civic are, in the words of Mr. Coleman, like nothing he's ever seen before, but they will be repaired. Rushio once says, are you planning on buying any cars this year? I hope so, because we haven't actually bought any cars in this household for 18 months. The review of the Tivoli, not really a review, but an ownership report for the Tivoli of an 18-month ownership report will be on the channel next week. And we haven't bought any cars since then at all. So we need to take the Rover really off daily duties at some point. We just need a bit more money to be able to buy another car and be able to afford to run it. And the running is the big thing, insurance and tax and all kinds of stuff like that. So I do hope so, but at the moment we can't until we actually earn a bit more money. Richard Howard says you can't beat an Accord 2.4 Tourer. The 2.4 Tourer that I drove that belongs to Richard in July is on Sensible Secondhand Reviews. That's one of the best cars I've ever driven on Sensible Secondhand Reviews. It's absolutely amazing. It's a really, really good car. And it has a beige leather interior. Therefore, you must watch it if you haven't done already. Peter Hadley says there's a Mint 740 GLE in Auto Trader right now. Metallic blue, beige leather interior, and 4-speed overdrive. Don't let Mr. Coleman get his hands on that, otherwise he'll go banger racing. Hurton Classics, Mr. Coleman, I doubt has seen TC's back end. Don't let Mr. Coleman get anywhere near your Cortina, Simone, because that will go round a banger racing track if he gets his way with it. He's like that. Philip says, what is Mr. Coleman's channel? Mr. Coleman's channel is Rubbish Mechanic, and he's quite close to 1,000 subscribers, so he will be doing live streams soon himself, and I'm sure many of you will be enjoying them. Jimmy Thomas says that sofa looks very comfy. Yes, we actually got this from an old work colleague, my lady wife, a few years ago. It is very comfortable. Hotel Classic says, I bought the new panels for welding. Excellent. We like people who can weld. They're very useful people. Scottish Car Enthusiast, Trades TV, Mr. Watt has already answered the question. Mr. Coleman's channel is called Rubbish Mechanic. It is indeed. Car Ravioli says, have you got any plans for a cheap car to Mr. Richardson? It was great watching a few years back with 600. Yes, we did a £500 car challenge back in 2019 at Santa Pod and the surrounding area. We want to do another one of those. The problem is that it's quite difficult to organise something like that. It's because of these restrictions that just keep changing constantly in sense of where to go. Mr. Richardson, I think, is up for it. Don't quote me on that, but I think he is. Mr. Coleman certainly is. There are other people as well who'd want to do it. Planet Auto were going to do it last time. They weren't able to due to ill health. I don't know if Laurie's Mechanical Marvels will do it, though. They seem to be a bit preoccupied with other stuff. But there's other channels I would invite to come and do it if we're able to do it. And I did almost get a car last year to do it, but it never came through, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame. Richard Howlett says, thank you to me. Thank you, sir. Travelling says, the sofa is beige leather. Well, it kind of is. So since we do like beige leather interiors in both senses of the word. Grigor Ivanov, we've answered that question just now. Rover Joe says, can't beat a beige leather interior. We do like beige leather interiors on this channel. Mr. Waters from Scottish Car Enthusiast and Trains TV says, are you planning and attending the NEC Restoration Show in March? Yes, sir. I think so. Hopefully that goes ahead. I hope so. Mr. Alan Tom says, used car price be very high, gives you a lot less choice, £500. It certainly does. I've noticed that the choice in the local area on Auto Trader is much less than it used to be in 2019, for example. Matthew Jones says, any travels planned to visit cars in America, Australia, or China? The Rovers they made look interesting. Well, we kind of do, I suppose, have some of the Rovers or Roways because there's never sort of been any Rovers that have actually been Chinese made over here, but they sold them after the MG Rover era finished as sort of Roways and MGs. We have had Roways in this country. In fact, the MG5 EV is a rebadged Roway EI5. It's not actually an MG in most of the world. It's a Roway. So, or Rovi, depends how you want to say it. So yes, there we go. Rushio one says, have you ever driven a left-hand car? How did you find it? How do you find it? I've driven several left-hand drive cars. Driven a DS3, a Ford Focus, and what was the other one I drove? Renault Megane Sports Tourer. Drove those all in Germany. I don't know. Only one of them was manual. I found it easy to drive an auto because I'm not used to my hand changing gear on the other side. Gregor Varnas, did you ever get getting a no budget reviews car for yourself as Bagonomics car? We already had one of those because we were going to do Santa Pod Challenge again April 2020. Everything went wrong, as you know, and we kept the car, but we were going to buy for Challenge for a few months, and the car cost about £450. So we ran it for a while. But the thing was, at the time, having 3 cars in the house was completely excessive because we couldn't go anywhere. So eventually we had to get rid of it, which is a shame. But my lady wife really liked that car. So yeah, we have done that. But there's no real point at the moment to that because if you buy the car, you've got to insure it and you've got to tax it and you've got to service it, you've got to MOT it. And unless you've got a reason to sort of have it, and you actually have somewhere to store the thing, then it can be a bit of an expensive business. I know that doesn't mean anything to Mr. Seabrook and Darren from Free Pine Chips Garage or Mr. Richardson or anybody like that. But for me, I can't really afford stuff like that to hang around. Rover Joe says, I'm going to British Car Show at a motorist in April. There's a hub at socials there. Yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily go to that. It's quite a long way from where I am. It's about 4 hours or something. If I'm actually in the area anyway, I might go to it. But unless I wouldn't go. Philip just says, goodbye, got to go. Goodbye to you, sir. Simone from Hooked on Classics says, I'm tempted to change my 75's interior. It's too dark. I think you need a beige leather interior in your 75, Simone. That's what you need, a beige leather interior. Paulie Gautier says, grey leather interior or beige and a modern sterling. Surely so. You've been watching this channel long enough to know what we prefer. Scottish Car Enthusiast and Trains TV says, you'll also be at the Motorist for the social event in April. Very good. Bad Book says, good evening, sir. Good evening to you as well. Travelly says, what was the perfect car that you could be insured to pass your test? Do you mean like car with reasonable insurance on it? Because I pretty much had that quite soon after I passed my test. I quite enjoyed it. Yes, Sir Depeche, I have seen you. Don't worry. If I've said hello, sorry. Did I miss one of your comments? I do apologise. Rover Joe says, I'll be off into big car shows in Birmingham too. Do you mean big things like Pride of Longbridge and stuff like that? I've never heard of Roverfest before. Car reviewer says, aubergine line leather interior. Aubergine, that's interesting. There's not many of those. Russia one says, nice review of pre-order vintage car. I've actually been offered a pre-order vintage car and I've turned it down because I'm so bad at cars with no synchromesh on first gear. I've driven a couple of those and it's a total disaster for me to drive cars with no synchromesh on first gear. So I just tend to completely avoid them, I'm afraid. My name isn't Mr. Richardson. And every time I drive a car with no synchromesh on first gear, and I do it badly, he just completely mocks me. That's just what happens. So I tend to sort of avoid that. Right. Simone says, I'm hoping to go to Pride of Longbridge. Yes, so there's a few of us actually who are already hoping to go to that. So I'm going to go back a bit on here. I'm so sorry, Sir Depeche. You have also already kind of said something on here. I must have just accidentally scrolled past that. I've had quite a few comments on here tonight. I need to find the registration number that Jimmy wrote down so I can have a look at the MOT history like we said we were going to do. Because I think it'd be interesting. Look at the MOT history of an Alfa 145. P21YPJ. Excellent. Good. Let's have a look at it. Right. We started earlier on looking at MOT histories of an old Volvo. We'll now have a look at the MOT history of an Alfa Romeo 145. Ooh, the MOT has expired, and it expired some time ago. Oh my gosh, there was an MOT done in 2021, and it didn't exactly go well. 91,519 miles. Do not drive until repaired. Dangerous defects. Near side rear pipe connection leaking on a hydraulic braking system. That sounds quite dangerous. Repair immediately. Major defects. Offside rear stop lamp not working. Offside front headlamp aim predicted beam image is obviously incorrect. Left-hand drive beam pattern. Oh dear. Near side rear integral body structure or chassis has excessive corrosion, seriously affecting its strength within 30 centimeters of a body mounting. Offside rear integral body structure or chassis has excessive corrosion, seriously affecting its strength within 30 centimeters of a body mounting. Engine management light inoperative or indicates a malfunction. Service brake efficiency below requirements. Rear brakes unbalanced across axle 2. Front body integral body structure or chassis has excessive corrosion, seriously affecting its strength within 30 centimeters of body mounting. Oh dear. Repair as soon as possible, minor defects. Near side windscreen wiper defective. Monitor and repair if necessary. Central exhaust has a minor leak of exhaust gases flexi. Near side rear coil spring corroded. Offside rear coil spring corroded. Near side front brake hose slightly deteriorated. Offside front brake hose slightly deteriorated. Ooh, that's not gone well, has it? That's pretty bad. Sir Depeche, I did announce your arrival, sir, once I actually saw it, so I'd missed the first thing you said. I'm so sorry. I have already apologized, though. Grigor Ivanov says, if you had to buy a car for £500 and need some TLC for your MOT to drive 60 miles a day into internship for half a year, pre-1995 and maximum 400cc, what would it be? Either a Nissan Sunny N14, because you can get a 1.4 one of those. It's like 1390 something cc, or of course a Rover R8 214, but that would have to be checked over for things like corrosion and head gasket failure and other interesting things. Trabelli says to Simone Hooked on Classics, you just type at and then someone's name. That's the easiest way of getting hold of somebody. How is Sheldon? Oh, interesting. A Sheldon from Classic Britain. He's got a different name now, though, that he goes by. Scottish Car Enthusiasts and Trains TV says, I was hoping to go to Pride Longbridge. We'd already committed to the motorist and planning on going to the Great British Car Journey Museum. Obviously, that's where you have to go while on holiday. And Pride of Longbridge is 3 days after my holiday. Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. Rover Joe says there was an R3200 across the road from me. It failed its MOT every single year. Look at the history plate. Has that gone into bin now? Then might have a look at that a little bit later if we've got some time. Let's just check the time. Yes, we might have some time later. Carl Ravioli says best not get Mr. Richardson. Will remind of his own 145 issues. Yeah, he doesn't like being reminded of those things. John Edwards says to Trabelli, a beige leather interior but no green paintwork. Let's go on to Dulux. Don't paint your car necessarily in the same way that Ian Seabrook painted that Reliant. It doesn't always go as well as he did it, but that's a fiberglass car, so it's not so bad. Sean Cook says Monteo Titanium Axe 2007, Vauxhall Vectra Elite 2007, 2007 Passat Highline all 2 litre. I presume you're not talking about the forbidden fuel, sir, because we don't talk about diesels on this channel. Tripemonger says, I've always liked Honda Accords. I recall family friends who had a 1980 1.6 saloon manual in a pinkish red metallic, because I know the metallic you mean, with an incredible burgundy red interior and red velour seats. Probably a Mark 1 Accord, I should imagine. Sir Depeche says, apology begrudgingly accepted. Thank you, sir. Richard Howlett says, good evening, Sir Depeche. Hope to meet you somewhere. We all like to meet resident channel celebrity Sir Depeche at some point. Alan Tom says, I think the window wiper fault was the least worrying issue, the alpha failure sheet. Yes. The alpha failure sheet was quite comprehensive. Paulie Galtieri, as it says to Sean Cook, 2008 Skoda Superb is presumably with the V6 engine is vastly superior than all of those. Cara Violi talks about a Volvo 343 door in his village, F291 RPL, of a mossy, yes, mossy when cars get left for a long time. Rover Joe says it's still going though. It's amazing that 200. I'll have a look at that in a little while. Tripe Mugger says that Accord had a horn button on each one of the 4 steering wheel spokes. That's a bit of trivia for you all. John Edwards says we were tripe. I don't know what that means. Rover Joe says, hang on by a thread. The arch is pretty much filler and hammerite. Yes, filler and hammerite. Not the best, really. Hilton Classics, Simone says Sheldon's okay to restart his channel. Yes, he has indeed. It's still Classic Britain, but he goes by a different name now, and he's started his channel with new videos. John Edwards says, we were referring to your decor, sir. Beautiful sofa, but need to get dark green and beige leather interior sofa combination. I'm not sure it's easy to get hold of dark green and beige leather combination sofas. So Depeche Mode says, which not down a dark alley. Yes, not best to meet someone for the first time down a dark alley. Russia one says, oh, I can't answer that question. The thing is, you want to talk about forbidden fuel car. We don't talk about those on this channel. And I spent a long time on the last live stream talking about the reasons why we don't talk about them. So if you want to know why, go to about 14 minutes in or something, and you'll understand all about it. It's been the case since the very, very first video on this channel, the very first one over 3.5 years ago. So I'm not going to talk about it tonight because I spent too long talking about it and I got in trouble. So I just look at the last live stream we did, number 19, and you'll see all about that if you really want to know. Trebly says, oh yeah, but talking about the Classic Britain channel. Sean Cook says to Paulie Galtieri, you 100% correct about the Skoda Superb. We do like the Skoda Superb Mark 1 on this channel, but only the petrol ones. Rover Joe sent me some photographs. We'll have to look at that in a little while. Let's have a look at that registration number, shall we? And have a look at some ridiculous failure sheet. Y399YCT. Or is it V? Because Y wouldn't make any sense on one of those. V, yes, a V399YCT. Oh, it's a Rover 211. It's the smallest engine one. It's a very late one. It registered September 99. The 25 was actually launched in November 99. So yeah, it's quite a late one for one of those, and it's the one that was brought in to replace the Rover 100. Right, let's have a look at the failure sheet. The MOT has expired. It actually expired in November. I don't know how far we want to go back. Let's just do the last failure sheet, which was November 2020. Let's just take a look at this. So service, these are all major defects. Service brake efficiency below requirements. Exhaust lambda reading after second fast idle outside specified limits. Near rear side suspension component mounting prescribed area excessively corroded, significantly reducing structural strength outer sill. Rear exhaust has major leak of exhaust gases. Exhaust has major leak of exhaust gases. There's the rear and the presumably the middle bit as well. Near front outer drive shaft constant velocity boot splitter insecure. No longer prevents the ingress of dirt, but actually only about a sort of £12 part actually to get one of those. So it's not the end of the world, but it's not the end of the world, but it's a bit of labour and a bit of a hassle to get those off and put one new one on. Offside front outer drive shaft constant velocity boot split or insecure, no longer prevents the ingress of dirt. Offside seatbelt anchorage prescribed area strength or continuity significantly reduced outer sill. Oh dear, when your sill is going and you've got components sort of rusting prescribed area, it's not good. But all those failures were dealt with within the course of a week, actually, last time. But it looks like the car has been taken off the road now because the MOT expired about 6 weeks ago. So there we are. A new thing for this evening. Looking at MOT failure sheets. Travelly says, can we talk about CNG gas-powered vehicles? Well, you can, so there's not many of those around, but you can if you like. Rushy01 says, have you watched every episode of every series of The Avengers? Yes, I have, although with the first series of The Avengers, I think only 3 episodes and 20 minutes of another one exist. The other, 26 episodes in the first series of that, so the other 22 and a half episodes don't exist anymore, so can't watch those, but every single other one, yes, I have. Of course I have. Sir Depeche Mode says, do you prefer Windows Apple? I prefer neither. I like Linux. So I'm afraid that is something that may be an unexpected surprise to you, sir. Hooton Classic says, have you ever driven an LPG car? Yes, I have. Yes. Mr. Coleman's Volvo 960 that he used to have was an LPG. I think a factory kit on that as well. Try it, Mugger says, we don't talk about a certain type of fuel on this channel. Indeed, we do not. Paul Banks says something strange. I don't know what that is. Andy G says, would it be worth any car company to produce a modern amphicar? I think the latest one that was made is Dutton Marina? Mariner? Not Marina, maybe. That, I think, is still in production at the moment. It might have just gone out. Yes. Paulie Gattieri says to Sean, perfect cars, Mark II superb, especially if you love the Lauren and Chloe brown leather interior GSG box. I think we've got a problem there, Paulie, because you just talked about a forbidden fuel. And as you know, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. We want the V6 petrol, please. Rover Joe says the corrosion was like that since 2011. I believe it's repaired like 10 times. Yes. 200s of the R3 type are really, really cheap at the moment. It's generally not worth repairing one. It's a bit like that, unless you're an absolute sort of stickler. You want to restore the whole car, really. Matthew Jones says, a Triumph Acclaim. I used to like the look of those cars in my youth. Not seen one in many years. Our neighbours who used to have the Volvo 480 Turbo I mentioned earlier on, they also had an Acclaim. It's a blue one. So, yes, I'm very familiar with those. I'd love to drive one, but it just depends if I get offered one. That's generally the case with most of these cars. Hooton Classic, Simone says, I've watched every episode of Professionals, including the band episode. The band episode was called Klansman. It was going to be broadcast in the first series, but they thought it was too risky, so they didn't actually ever broadcast that. It was in 1978, I think it's going to be broadcast. I think it was filmed November, December 77, and was going to be broadcast in 78, but I don't think they actually released it at the time, although it was shown on the repeats on Granada Plus and things like that. So I've seen every single one of the Professionals episodes. I've seen every single episode of CI5, the new Professionals as well. Yes, there's actually videos about the Professionals on my channel. I did a couple of podcasts in 2019 with my friend Andy Shaw about the Professionals, and then in 2020 I did one on the new Professionals. So I'm very familiar with those series. Grieger or Varnoff, those cars were overrated and selling on Mount Common here in Holland. I was considering a Mark II Polo, Mark III Golf 205 106, Suzuki Swift Mark II, Mr. Micro K10, Nissan Micro K10. I have driven a couple of those and probably go for one of those if it's not terminally rotten, because unfortunately they're of an age where they and virtually everything else is terminally rotten. So Depeche Mode is Android. Yes, I never had an iPhone or anything like that. I've had several Android phones. My first one about 2011. I've been using Linux for years and years and years and years. Paulie Galtieri says, "What's so bad about the banned episode of Vegetables called Klansman?" Okay, the thing about the Klansman is that it's about racism. It's not overtly racist episode. It's about racism. It's about sort of Ku Klux Klan type people and a fight over property stirred up by white supremacists against black people. So they thought that was too controversial in 1978. Steve Cornington, I have a Corsa D repaired differential, a little noisy, driven like the 14 months. What do you think on selling? If you want to talk about that, go to Mr. Coleman's channel, Rubbish Mechanic. He actually had a Corsa D recently that he has been working on for years. I think he's the person you want to talk to about that kind of thing. Rover Joe, someone posted a picture of it underneath an R3 200, and all rear chassis, legs, boot floor, and all the what cells were completely rotten. Yeah, gosh, R3 200s, 25s, 45s, ZSs, ZRs, HHR 400s. They're really old cars now, and they do rot. Not necessarily worse than anything else at the time, but they do like to rot, like most of the stuff does. Car Ravioli, Mr. Richardson's 200 VI doesn't look too rotten. Maybe it's just the head gasket failure, not unlike Quentin shenanigans. Mr. Coleman is going to be helping Mr. Richardson deal with that head gasket issue, and he has recommended the correct part from DMGRS to fix that. And he said if Mr. Richardson didn't get the correct one, he would do nasty things to him. So I think that's going to be sorted out. Matthew Jones, did you like Life on Mars cars? Again, rather like the professionals, I have an episode of Cars on Film on Television on that playlist on the channel, and you can hear me talk about the cars on Life on Mars in there as well. Rover Joe says, would you say that terminally rotten cars are repairable? By definition, terminally rotten cars are not repairable. Rotten cars can be, but terminally rotten ones, I think by definition, they're not repairable. Shortcuts on Classics. You should try the New Professionals from 1998. I'm afraid so. I completely disagree. I've done an episode of Cars on Television and Film on New Professionals, and I actually know one of the main actors in there. His name's Adrian Irvine. I know him. I've known him for years, and it was a total failure. It's really not very good. You could get it on DVD and see what you want, but in my opinion, as a massive fan of Professionals, it is. I'd say it's quite a disappointment personally. Paulie Galtieri says, saw one of those MG5 EVs, look like a modern Maestro van. I suppose there's some similarity in that way. Hooton Classics, Simone says, one series I can't find the Shane Ritchie version of Minder. I heard it was awful. It was awful. Yeah, it was terrible. I think it was 2009 that came out. Matthew Jones says, Midsummer seems to have nice Rovers. Yes, they had a deal with Rover until the collapse to supply 800s and then 75s. And there was a 45 V6 in that as well at one point. Scottish Car Enthusiast and Trains TV, Davey says, Rover Judge says, so check out Aston Martin Lagonda and Furious Driving. Yeah, again, it depends about what you define as, terminal rot, doesn't it? Terminal rot, by definition, shouldn't actually be repairable. Steve Content says, thank you, no problem, sir. Hooked on Class says, sure, could I will do that. Hooked on Class says, the Lagonda is a wreck. When has a car been a complete wreck ever kind of stopped Mr. Richards from doing something? When's that ever stopped him? Scottish Car Enthusiast and Trains TV says Matthew Jones, a couple of members on the 75 Owners Club own the four Midsummer 75. Yes, there's quite a few of those actually that he had. Paul Gaccieri says to Simone, it's awful. We don't talk about Shane Ritchie on this channel. Good, excellent. And Andy G agrees. Russia One says, how do you rate public transport in the UK? It's really good in some areas, but not so good in others. I think I would say that. I haven't really got time to talk about all that stuff now. We're getting close to the end. Yekaterad if says no hate is a strong word. I don't understand what you're talking about, I'm afraid. Trebly says, good night, all next time. Good night, sir. Rover Joe said, someone said my suit was terminal, but I highly doubt it. Look, Mr. Coleman has looked at the at the rust on your car, sir, in a photograph. And I think we'll get rid of some spam here. I don't like spam around here. I don't like that kind of thing. Just get rid of that. There we go. Good. Unwanted commercial content or spam. Right, good. Like removing spam. Okay. It's on classics. I would absolutely love a Rover 75 V8. Yes, I think many people would like one of those. There's not many around. Sean Cook says to Trabelli, good luck, sir. Our resident channel celebrity says, oh, before I forget, I had sold my property today, but I sold something to on eBay, and we got talking about cars. He asked if I watched your channel, and we realised that, oh my goodness, you are Sir Depeche mode. Well, recognition in real life, Sir Depeche. Cheers to you, sir. You really are a resident channel celebrity, aren't you? Rover Joe, so I talked to Mr. Coleman about it. Yeah, talk to Mr. Coleman about it. It was most of these kind of questions you asked me. You should ask Mr. Coleman when he actually gets the ability to do live streams. And the easiest way for you lot to get Mr. Coleman to be able to do live streams is to go and subscribe to his channel. But he's very close to 1,000 subscribers now. Then he'll be able to do live streams himself. I mean, I'm hoping that at some point he and I will be able to do another joint one. But yeah, you know, these questions often are aimed really at him more than me. And I think with that, we've all caught up. So, we've got a very interesting question that's just come in. Haggis King, what's a new car to buy for under £2,000 for a new tall driver? How about a Skoda Roomster? That has a lot of room in it. That's on Sensible Secondhand Reviews. One of the most popular videos of the year, actually. That it's on the Sensible Secondhand Reviews playlist. Mr. G says, "Where's Mr. Coleman?" I think Mr. Coleman is picking up his new car this weekend. He's on a secret mission. Grigor Ivanov, my classic mini was terminally rotten, inner and outer cells, booth. Excuse me, gosh, I should burp on this side. Front floor plans, inner wheel arch liners, fixed it all, sensible budget and time. If it's possible, it takes effort. Yes, lots and lots of kind of rust on those classic minis. Right, we're running out of time, so we haven't got too long now. Hurton Classic says, I have Depeche Mode in my tape deck. I'm 75. Excellent choice. John Hodgson, do you and Mr. Coleman like doing chats together? I quite like doing them with Mr. Coleman, but he likes doing them even more than I do. Theon Winter Miller says, Mark II Focus 1.6, Mark V Astra 1.6. It's entirely going to depend with something like that on the condition of the car. I have reviews of yes, a petrol 1.6 Focus and a Mark V Astra 1.4. Astra's on Tweed Jacket Reviews. Focus is on No Budget Reviews. Just take a look at both of those are on my channel. Soda Depeche Mode says, you are appreciated more than you know in the Dudley area. Thank you, sir. That's very kind. Adam Thomas, Haggis King, Zuki Wagonar, plenty of space. It kind of does. The headroom's very good, but I didn't find that one of those very, very comfortable to drive. I'd probably go for a bigger car than that. Rover Joe says, I'm going to go to reputable garage welder, not the best welder. Well, Mr. Coleman is, and he's the best person I'll talk about it. Haggis King says, thank you. Right, that's enough because we need to finish. Thank you ever so much indeed for watching this slightly shambolic, what do we call it? Slightly professional live stream. And Grigor advances diesel, manual, petrol, medical. We don't talk about diesels on this channel. So yeah, thank you for watching this slightly professional live stream. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment below. And hopefully we'll do another one of these soon. And remember, don't talk about forbidden fuel on this channel.